So it's been 3.8 years I'm working with Infosys.
Okay.
So initially I was part of the Pfizer, which was the healthcare domain in which I worked on the core Java concepts,
Okay.
and now moved to the Aetna, which is the health insurance, where we are working in the agile methodology, where we have the stories and the scrums, and we have one navigator application in which front end is developed in the Angular JS, and in back end we work on the Spring. So we get stories from both, like for front end as well as the back end.
Okay. So what sort of stories did you have done till yet?
Okay. So in initial stage, I was working on the front end where there was one requirement in which suppose there were some pages which were related to the financial details of the user. So the business came up with the requirement that instead of directly routing users to those pages, there should be some sort of security which will validate the users, and then and only then we will route those users to those pages. So what we have done was we had one pop-up where a user will be having 5 questions, and after answering those questions and after validating, then and only we are routing those users to those pages. So that was the requirement in which we used model pop-up, then connected that using Ajax call from HTTP, and then validated using the Spring.
Okay. So the interview has been held for backend process. I hope you are aware of
that. Yes. So initially, during the first 2 years, I was working on the backend only, but now here as I'm working as a full stack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there any requirement or is there any story in which you have developed from its scratch?
Yeah. So recently we had to develop one API which will bring the details of the family. Like as this is the health insurance, we have to bring the policies of all the family, like the subscriber, that is the main parent, and the dependents of that parent. So in that case, we had developed one REST API using the Spring, where we have created the REST controller and configured that using the web.xml and then brought the information back from the database.
Okay. So in which campus you are in? Phase 1 or phase 2?
Phase 2.
Okay, fine. So let's get started with a technical interview.
Sure.
Okay. So let's start with Java. So Amar, tell me one thing. How much do you rate yourself in Java out of 10?
Maybe 7.
Okay, fine. So let's get started.
Sure.
Can you please explain me the OOPS concept?
Yeah. So basically we have encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and then polymorphism.
Okay.
Like
so by polymorphism, what do you mean?
Polymorphism, yeah.
What do you mean by polymorphism?
Yeah, polymorphism means like you have the same method or the same thing, but which will behave differently. Like we have overloading and overriding. In overloading, like you have the same methods, but you want different functionality for those in the same class. And suppose you want to override something from the parent, then you can go for the overriding, which will be during the runtime.
So apart from the class where methods are in, what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding?
Like in overloading, the mapping will be done during the compile time.
Okay.
But in case of overriding, it will check during the runtime, like what is the you are creating for, and accordingly it will map that method to.
Any difference related to method definition?
Yeah, method definition, like in case of overloading, the signature should be same. Same is the case with the overriding, but there are few other factors which we need to check while going for the overriding. Like we have the exception handling, then the
In method overloading, the signature should be same, exact same, or different.
Sorry, it should be different. In case of overriding, it should be the same.
Okay.
Like,
so when you say method overloading, it should be different. It should be different in what sense?
Yeah. So the name should be the same. The signature should be different. That means the arguments or the parameters which are there for that method should be different, or at least the sequence should be different for those parameters.
Okay, fine. So suppose I have one class, suppose ABC. Okay. That I have one void show method.
Okay.
and it is accepting a parameter of integer class. Not it is integer. Okay.
Okay.
And it is x, integer x. And in that method, I am just printing in integer class and with x only. Okay.
Okay.
Now I have another method, void show, which is accepting string argument.
Okay.
In that method, I am just printing in string method, and that s I am going to print. Okay.
Okay.
Now from main, I am calling that show method and passing null as a parameter. So what do you think, which method will be called?
What parameter you are passing?
Null.
Null. Okay. Okay. So regarding null, I think it will first check for the related value. So it will go for the string first, and if not, then it will check for the another values which are more relevant to it. So I think
in this case, which method will be called, string one or integer one?
String one.
Why not integer one?
Because in case of integer, you cannot assign null value to it.
If I am going to declare integer x is equals to null, you are saying it is not a valid statement?
Integer as in INTEGR, right?
No, integer.
Small int. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it should work.
Then in case, in that overloading case also, null should go in integer as well, right?
Yeah.
You said that it will go for string method. Why not for integer?
Not sure.
Okay. Suppose I have removed removed the method of integer and put on another method, void show, which is accepting object class argument.
Okay.
Now in that method I am printing in object class method and printing that object argument. Now I am passing null. Now what do you think will get print?
Yeah. So in this case, like as you said, object is the parent class and string is the child of that object. And when we are passing null, it will check for the best matching argument. Like you can also pass the null to object, but it is already been handled by the string. So it will take the string so as to avoid the memory allocation.
Okay. So I think post interview you can try what will happen if we have string method.
Sure. Yeah.
Move on. Which version of Java you are using in your current project?
It's 1.7.
1.7? Okay. So what are the new advantages of or new features introduced in Java 7 from 1.6?
Okay. So there are a couple of new features added for the exception handling. Like previously, we want to remove some resources or we want to free up some resources. Then we had to use the finally block. But now in 1.7 they have introduced the try with resources, where we can have the resources in the try block only. And then after the completion of the try block, it will automatically free up the space for those resources.
Okay.
And again we have the pipeline exceptions, where suppose you have the same functionality for the exception handling. So instead of having multiple catch blocks and printing and having the same methodology in those catch blocks, you can go for the pipelining, where you can just pipeline those exceptions and mention the functionality which you want to perform there.
Okay. So do you know what are the features introduced in Java 1.8?
Yeah, so I have gone through them. Like we have lambda expressions, which is the behavioral thing which we have. Like suppose you want to add any method, then as Java is you have to create the class and then need to add that method to that class.
Okay.
But instead of that, you can go for the behavioral concept, where you can have the inner classes as well. But avoiding that, we have the lambda expressions which will not create extra class for that. And also we have static methods and default methods in the interface, where the mandatory previously you have to, suppose you want to add anything in the interface, then the all classes which are implementing those interfaces needs to implement those methods. But now we have the default keyword which we can use, which will avoid the mandation. Like it is not mandatory to override those or implement those methods from the interface, which will ease the work of the developer.
Okay. So can you explain me the difference between abstract class and interface?
Yeah. So in case of abstract class, like you can have both, like declaration as well as the definition. But in case of interface, you cannot define the methods over there.
What those methods are called?
Those are abstract methods in the interface.
So we cannot have abstract method in abstract class?
Yes, we can have, like we can have abstract methods as well as we can define the things. Like suppose anything extending the abstract class, they can implement the methods which are abstract over there, and also we can have the definitions in the abstract class as well for the common functionality which we want to implement throughout the child classes.
Okay. So tell me one thing, Amar. Suppose I have one scenario in which either I can extend one abstract class or implement an interface. So which should I choose? Which would be a better option?
Okay. Like it depends on your requirement. Like suppose your class is already extending some class, then you cannot again extend the abstract class.
My class is not extending any class. It is simple, not implementing any interface, neither extending any class. So in that scenario, what should I do?
Okay. I think in that case you should go for the interface. Like if you are going for the abstract class, then it will have another class which will be get created as a source code. But in case of interface, as all the methods are abstract, then it would avoid the creation of the class in the memory, and which will save your memory.
Okay, fine. Can you please explain me the difference between string builder, string buffer, and string?
Okay. So basically, initially there was only string. In string is immutable as it is defined as final. So if you are going to change it, it will create a new instance instead of updating the present one. So to avoid those things, like suppose we want to have some functionality in which you want to update the current string, they came up with the string buffer and string builder, where you can modify the existing string as such. So string buffer is synchronized as so it is thread shape, like you can have multiple threads working on it, but in case of string builder it's not synchronized.
Okay. So you said that in string we cannot modify the string. So what these classes are called? I mean, there is a terminology for that.
Yeah, these are called immutable classes.
Okay. So do we have any other classes in Java other than string which are immutable?
Immutable classes in Java. Not sure.
Okay.
I will have not. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you said string is immutable class. Suppose I have one business requirement and I need to make my user-defined class as immutable. Can I do that?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. So like the same resemblance we can have from the string class. Like we can make the class as final, and then we can have all the attributes from that class as final, so that no one can change it.
Okay.
And then we can have the getters, but we need to avoid the setters so that no one can change those values.
Okay.
And then we can have the constructor to initialize, public constructor to initialize those values.
Fine. Okay. So is it okay? Are you familiar with collections?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with collections. Can you please explain me the difference between array list and linked list? Like in which scenario should I use array list and in which scenario I should go for linked list?
Yeah. So in case of array list, suppose you want the retrieval. Retrieval is the most used requirement in your case. Like you want to retrieve the things, then you should go for the array list because it is having the random access. So you can retrieve the things very fast. But suppose you want to add or you want to remove something, then that is the overhead. Like in case of array list, initially you will be having the fixed size of list of 10. And when you are trying to add 11th value, then it will create a new array list and will copy the old one to that. So this is the overhead, like it will take more time and the performance will be slow. So in case of addition or removal, you can go for the linked list where you can put any values in between, or you can delete the things, because there is the next and the head concept where you can just point the things to the new node.
Okay. So can you explain me the difference between hash set and tree set?
Hash set and tree set. Okay. So hash set and tree set are the implementations of the set in which we cannot have the duplicates values. So in case of hash set, you won't be having any sorting order associated with those values you are going to put. But in case of tree set, the internally it will sort the things and will have the by default sorting order when you are inserting the values.
Okay. So in what order the tree set will sort the elements?
In which order?
Yeah.
Okay, so tree set will
Suppose I have a tree set of integer class. So what sorting order will be followed?
So it's default sorting order. Like suppose you are sorting the integer value, and if you are putting first value as 5, and then you are inserting 7 or 9, then accordingly it will sort your value like to the left or right, and accordingly if the value is less, then it will put to the left, and if it is more into
ascending order.
Sorry?
You're saying ascending order.
Not sure about the ascending order, but that is the default ordering which he uses for the already existing objects, like the objects from the Java or the primitives.
In case of string?
In case of string?
Yeah. What will happen? For how sorting will be happening?
In case of string, not sure. Like
okay.
For customize, we need to use the comparable or comparators. But for the primitives or the already existing objects from the Java, it uses the default order. That's what I know.
It should be having any sorting order, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
What it is right now without implementing comparator.
Not sure. It should be ascending, I guess.
For string?
For string, not sure.
Okay.
No.
Fine. So, can you tell me what method of map we use while we try to insert the value in map?
Put it is.
Okay. And what is the return type of put?
Okay. So, put will return null if there is no value already available at that hash code. Okay. But if a value is already there, it will override that value and return the already existing value, that is the previous one.
Okay, so what is the type which it will return? What is the return type?
It's object.
Okay. And for hash set, if we are trying to add any value, what is the return type?
For hash set, it is Boolean one. It will return you true or false.
Okay. Fine. Suppose I have one class in which I have one method in which I have one try, catch, and finally block.
Okay.
Okay. So and that method is returning int value.
Okay.
Okay. Now in try, I am writing a statement return 1. Catch, I am writing a statement return 2, and then finally I am writing a statement return 3. Now when I call this method, what do you think, which value will be returned, 1, 2 or 3?
It will return 3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay, why not 1?
Because when it is going in the try block, it will check it is the return 1. So before returning, we have to call the finally block. So it will go for the finally, and then it will return 3 from there.
Okay, fine. Can you tell me what is the parent class of all the classes in Java?
Object.
Okay. Can you tell me some of the methods mentioned in object class?
Yeah, so we have hash code, then we have equals, we have one second. We have weight. Then we have finalize.
Okay, fine. Let's move to spring and hibernate. Tell me, Amar, how much do you rate yourself in spring and hibernate out of 10?
Spring maybe 6 and hibernate as well as 6.
Okay. Can you explain me the spring framework, spring MVC framework?
Okay. So basically, this main advantage of spring MVC is that the dependency injection, and also the MVC where we have the separation between the model view and control, and because of the dependency injection, we are not allocating the memory initially. We are giving the control back to the spring, stating that whenever required, you just create the bins for those and inject wherever required. So we can achieve using the auto wiring or using annotations or using XML.
So you said auto wiring. What is the default auto wired?
By default, what is the auto wire, right?
Sorry?
It's by type.
Okay. And what is the scope of beam by default?
Singleton.
And what are the other scopes available?
We have prototype, request.
Yes.
And I think another one is session. I guess we have used only request as such.
Okay. So what is, how do we achieve dependency injection in Spring?
Okay. So dependency is nothing but we are giving control to the Spring, and Spring will create the bins, and once there are the bins, then the need is to inject those things wherever required. So suppose in one class you want to inject those dependencies, we can have setter or the constructors using which we can inject those things.
So what are the ways by which we can do injections?
What are different ways, right?
Right.
You can use, as far as I know, I have used constructor and the setter.
Okay. So can you explain me the advantages of Hibernate, using Hibernate?
Okay. So Hibernate is basically ORM. So previously, if you were working with the JDBC, then we used to create the query and then the whole lot of configuration steps. But now as ORM, you can have the mapping of that object to the database table, and directly you can use the internal methods like save, delete, or update, which will directly map those things to the database, which is the main advantage. And again, we have different advantages, like we have caching, that is the first level cache, second level cache, which will...
Is there advantage related to dialects in...
Yes. So in case of dialect, like in case of JDBC, if you are changing the database, then you need to change the whole query and you need to change the code as such. But now if the database is changing, then you just need to go to the XML file and just change the dialect. And accordingly, when you are calling the methods like save or delete or update, then it will pick up the dialect and will convert those to respective queries and will update the database.
Okay. What is the significance why do we use resolver in Spring?
View resolver. Yeah. So like we have different views, we have different JSPs. So we need to give the direction to the controller, like once that method is executed, then what view you are going to return. So in view resolver, you can have the things like everything starting from this and ending with .jsp, like prefix and suffix, and accordingly it will go and will pick up those JSPs and will render those things to the UI.
Okay. So can you please tell me the difference between bean factory and application context?
Okay. So bin factory and application context are similar when it comes to the functionality. They will create the bins. So when you are going with the bin factory is lazy loading. Like when you are loading the XML file, it will not instantiate all the bins available in that XML. Whenever you are calling get bin and passing the ID, then and only then the instance of that bin will be created or that class will be created. But in case of application context, it is eagerly loading. As soon as you have configured that XML, it will instantiate all the bins available in the XML. and then it will just retrieve those bins. And again, in case of application context, there are some extra advantages like I haven't used those, but I have read those like internationalization and other features are added in the application context where you can have the different languages configured.
Amar, in Hibernate we have two methods, get method and load method, to retrieve the values, data from database, right? What is the difference between these two methods?
Get and load, right?
Yeah.
This is the most confusing question I have ever. In case of get, I think it will first check in the cache and then and only then it will hit to the database. Like suppose you are passing get ID and then it will check in the cache whether that is available or not, and then only it will hit the database. But in case of load, it will always hit the database and will bring the details if they are available.
Okay, so tell me one thing, if we are trying to fetch some particular row out of the database and that particular row is not present in database, so in that terms, what do you think will get returned in when we use get and when we use load?
So in case of get, if that row is not available, it will not throw any exception, but it will return null. But in case of load, it will throw one exception, that is, I think, object not. Sorry?
Which exception it will throw?
Object not present something. I forgot the name actually.
Okay, fine. So can you tell me what is first level and second level cache in Hibernate and to which it is being associated?
Okay. In case of first level cache, like it is associated to the session factory as such. Like
factory or session?
Sorry?
Session factory or session?
Session, yeah.
Okay.
So when you are within the session, in the same session you can have the cache, like in session suppose you have retrieved something and again you are retrieving the same thing, then it will take in the first level cache if it is already been retrieved from the database and it will take it from there. But in case of second level cache, it will go to the higher level, like the all sessions which are available in that session factory, and it will check for the all sessions and then it will check if the data is available over there or not.
Okay. So out of session and session factory, which one is thread safe?
Which is?
Thread safe.
Thread safe. Not sure actually, but I know the session factory is singleton. So I think it should be thread safe.
Check that after interview, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the technical part of interview has been over. So I'm going to ask some logical questions to you.
Okay.
Fine?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Suppose I have one pool of water. Okay. And I have two buckets. One is of 5 liter and another is of 3 liters. Okay. Currently those two buckets are empty.
Okay.
Now I want to measure exact 7 liter of water by using those two buckets. I don't have any measuring device or weighing device. Okay. So how I'm going to do that?
7 liter, right?
Right.
Okay. Fill the 3rd liter. Put that in the 5 liter. 2 liter is remaining. Then another fill. Yeah, we can do one thing. We can fill the 3 liter tank or bucket. Put that 3 liter into the 5 liter.
Okay.
Again fill the 3 liter. Put that in the 5 liter. Once that is filled.
Okay.
Okay. So you have 5. 3 into 5, 1 remaining. 1 second, 5, 2. Fill the 5 liter. Mm-hmm. 5 and 6. Fill 5 liter, put 3 liter again. 3 and 2. 3 and 2. back. Okay. Yeah, we can do one thing.
Okay.
Fill up the 5 liter
Hmm.
and then put it back into the 3 liter tank.
Okay.
So you will be having 2 liter in 5 liter tank
Okay.
and 3 liter in 3 liter. Okay.
Yes.
Then again fill the 5 liter full.
Okay.
So it will be 5 liter. Sorry. Then it will have 2 liter. Then again.
Now what you can do is you can throw the water of 3 liters, put the 2 liter in 3 liter water bucket, and again fill
Oh,
the liter.
yeah.
Get my point?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Suppose you are a blind person and you're sitting in a dark room, okay?
Hmm?
And you have 4 tablets with you. 2 is of red color and 2 is of blue color.
2 red, 2 blue. Okay.
Okay. Now, the requirement is you have to eat one of each color tablet at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you cannot, as you are blind, the only way to distinguish between those two tablets is by seeing them, by recognizing by them color, because the shape, density, and weight of those tablets are equal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now how will you make sure that you are eating exact one tablet of each color, one of blue color and one of red color?
Okay. 2 red, 2 blue. Mm-hmm. So those 4 tablets are mixed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.